Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new malicious compliance content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Manager Tells Me, You Need to Know Which Rules to Follow. When I was in grade school, about 15 years ago, I was working nights and weekends in a convenience store. It also happened to be the first time the fuel prices shot up to $4 plus per gallon, in America. Because of this, there were quite a few people who pumped gas and drove off, prompting our company to institute a pay before pumping policy. The company was a small, regional chain of gas stations, convenience stores in a largely rural area. They were concerned about any loss. So much so that in the company newsletter they announced firing someone for regular theft from the store. The theft in question was when an employee refilled her fountain drink while on duty. Another example was that we were required to do money drops any time we had more than $200 in the cash register. Another employee was fired because she was robbed at gunpoint and hadn't done a money drop. There was approximately $205 in the register at the time. So when this new policy came out, I wasn't about to risk my job over someone filling up and driving off with a tank full of gas on my watch. My manager was really good about working around my needs for class, research, etc. while working on my degree. So I put up with this and wanted to keep my job. One night I'm working, and someone pulls up to get gas. The machine beeps letting me know someone is trying to fuel up before paying. I won't pre-authorize because policy. Customer comes in and demands I let him fill up before paying. I explain the policy and he lights into me with perhaps every exploitive he knows. I'd like to say I was professional, but I returned his hospitality. The next day when I show up for work, my manager is waiting for me, clearly unhappy. He is a regular customer, and we want to keep them happy. I explained to her that, regular customer or not, I wasn't willing to risk my job over a drive-off when people are getting fired for losing such little sums of money. Manager states, I see what you're saying, but you have to learn which rules to follow. Now, she's been with the company for about 15 years. She could get some leeway. I'd been there less than a year. I had no leeway. So I asked her, please put in writing which rules I am expected to follow and which rules I do not. Or put in writing which customers are exceptions to policy, and which ones are not. Until then, I'm following all of the company's policies. I'm not surprised that she wouldn't put that in writing. Fast forward about a week. I'm working solo on a Sunday afternoon when someone I've never seen before comes in and yells at me for not pre-authorizing his pump. I explained the company policy and that he would have to prepay, just like everyone else. Customer claimed he was with corporate and that he should be allowed an exception. I informed him that if he really was from corporate he'd know about this policy and would expect me to follow it. I even pointed to the policy statement in the window for him to read. The customer yelled at me and stormed off before I could reply. Turns out, this stranger was from corporate and even the VP of the company. He called to complain to my manager about my refusal to let him pump first. She repeated my arguments as to why I refused to risk my job and that he should be glad to know they have such loyal employees. VP said that policy was meant for regular customers and not for employees. She replied, please put into writing which rules we are expected to follow and which ones we are not. Next one is titled, all your company's support is done by foreigners that can't even speak English anyway. This happened between 8 and 11 years ago. A little background, I grew up on the Mexican-US border. Even though I was in Mexico, we got perfect TV reception from American channels, so I became fluent in English by age 8. I've lived in Minnesota for the entirety of my adult life, and friends in Texas mock me because I sound Minnesotan. Fast forward to me being either late 20s or early 30s working in a suburb of Minneapolis at an Apple store as a lowly salesperson. The job there is to try to get folks to upgrade, buy a more expensive machine that they came in for, get accessories, and most importantly, buy AppleCare. I did fairly well because I was upfront with my customers about pros and cons rather than just give them the scripted spiel about how magical and life-changing those add-ons were. I had a lot of regulars that would only work with me for this reason, and they always ended up buying more shit in spite of my advice not to. Fast forward to some summer and this kid from Wisconsin that's about to start college comes in with his middle-aged tubby loudmouth dad and the concierge directs them to me. Dude is just completely rude, so I went into spiel mode, duck this guy. I do all the scripted shit, he was having none of it and I didn't care, I wanna be done with him. We get to the AppleCare and the guy says, "Can you guarantee that I won't be talking with some foreigner? You can't even understand them." At this point my petty little Mexisotan passive-aggressive heart light up with joy at the opportunity. "Sir, we at Apple want you to feel happy with the services we offer as much as possible. Unfortunately I can't guarantee that the tech support people will be American any more than I can guarantee that an American will help you here at the store. I'm actually Mexican living as a permanent resident in the US. I apologize if you find my accent hard to understand. I will go in back and find an American to help you, but there are a lot of foreigners in this store so it might be a few minutes." The schadenfreude at seeing this backwoods racist squirm and say, "Well, you know what I mean." "I do, sir, I will get someone else for you." No, you're doing a great job." I proceeded to have my way with his wallet by getting everything and anything that his son may need for college. I even made a couple of jokes to the kid to stay in school because otherwise he'll have to work at a mall and deal with rude people all day. Next one is titled, Job Posting Mayhem. Near a couple of decades ago I was doing an entry-level job in human resources and recruitment administration. I had a boss who was so difficult to work for. Her average new hire lasted 6 months. She had a thing for hating Asians, Middle Eastern, disabled people, blacks. She made it known from the very first meeting. "You're not the hire we were hoping for, and if you were going to come to us in a wheelchair you should have finished a master's first." I needed the work at the time and went with it, hoping things would improve. I remember one meeting she questioned me on why I hired someone who indicated they were born in India when there were plenty of Canadians to choose from. Not a welcoming place to be if you're different from the mold. To this day one of the most toxic and poisoned companies I've ever worked for. She had a thing about administrative integrity. Client is never wrong. Keep them happy and never question them. Support their bad decision making even if it's wrong. Hiring someone with office administration experience, they had to exactly match office administration the clients wanted and match that against resumes. If someone said they did office administration, but didn't include sorting pens in their resume, they had to be screened out despite very obviously having the experience and capability to the job. My job was to screen resumes and post jobs on the corporate applicant career portal. That's it. One day I was reviewing a job description the client had sent our division. It had numerous spelling errors in it. As per her rules we were not allowed under any circumstances to edit the copy the client sent us. One day I made the unfortunate mistake of changing a comma at the end of a paragraph to a period, only to get dragged into her office and screamed at. Under no circumstances do we ever change the wording of what the job description says. It was late Friday afternoon when I had an information manager job description come in. One of the typos had included the word asses instead of assesses all throughout the job poster. The successful candidate will need to be willing to sift through asses worth of technical info, or a strong acumen to ass is essential in this role. Great assessment skills are needed in this role. For reasons unknown the employment equity section included the word no in front of it in bold and the salary had an extra digit in it. It looked like someone had typed it all word for word from someone's bad handwriting. Common sense would indicate this wasn't something to go out, but it was late Friday and I was informed that I had to launch all their job postings without any hiccups or delays. Everyone else had gone home and so I did exactly that. Launched this word for word without changing a thing. Monday rolled by and I got such a reaming out the walls shook. I left shortly after this. They had dragged my boss downtown to corporate on a Saturday to fix it, after so many complaints went up to the CEO themselves about that particular job posting. The portal was buggy, and because their backend system was slow, it didn't allow edits of files already live without contacting IT, who is off for the weekend. So for weeks the posting was visible on all of the job sites as it was initially launched. I learned a lot about how not to work in HR from her. Exactly everything I learned from her I eventually ended up doing the complete opposite of. Last one is titled, New Rules for Parts in the Office Cost a Sales Guy His Bonus. Background. I work in launch quality for a mid-size manufacturing company in the States. My team is basically the last step before a new product can get okayed to sell, as we do all the final checks, customer documents, and regulatory sign-offs. Our last manager left just when COVID hit, as he was near 70 and decided to just retire. Took the company till October to decide to hire a new one. During this time the salespeople stopped coming in, and because my team were some of the few office folks coming in, because we have to check the parts, they started shipping everything to us. Samples, prototypes, final launch parts, paperwork, you name it. Even better, they rarely picked everything up. They may take 5 to 10 of a 25-part run, and left us with the mess. A year of this and the office was a wreck, and they didn't care, as none of the mess affected their bonuses, so long as those parts got to the customer on time. New boss comes in and he's one of 2 managers on site, him and the production manager. Because of how the factory is laid out, our team is the only ones in the office, and so that's where he is. He questions the mess, but we say no one has cared about our concerns, so he shrugs it off. Now our boss has his faults. He's pretty tone deaf on the resources and time it takes to finish things, sometimes because of the industry he came from, heavy automotive. His attitude is, if it takes us all 60 hours a week for the next month, we work it. The other side of that is he's here with us. He'll occasionally just tell someone their assignment is to not be there for a couple days if things are slow, and he has our backs. Malicious compliance. About 3 months ago the company president comes in for the first time in a year. He is pissed about the state of the office. As our boss is the only manager around, he reams him up one side and down the other for the state of things, despite new boss only being there about 6 months and all this predating him. Tells him to just figure it out, but I want this office clean and professional. Boss comes to me and says, write me a policy and process for shipping material to the office, storage, and disposal of things that sit. Have the draft by the end of the week, and I'll get you a budget and some factory folks if you need to buy anything, move, or install anything. So I write one that's pretty easy and straightforward. Basically what we had already been doing but more organized. Shelves, ID locations, incoming and outgoing. Boss looks at it and makes 2 comments, we're not inventory clerks. Sales gets the ID of the shipment, and unless they get my or the production manager's approval, it's their problem. 2, we don't have that much space. Add a clause, we will throw out anything over a week old every Friday. Then he got me 2 maintenance people and told purchasing I had some orders to put in. Then he sent the policy to the president. President said to do it. 3 weeks later the office is pristine. President has his chest puffed out next time he comes through. Then last month it happens. We all knew sales weren't going to pay attention to our policy, even through my boss personally met with the sales VP and the team leads. For the most part nothing we threw out was a big deal, but then one of the team leads ships a whole prototype order to the office. I know the guy is infamous for getting other people to do his work and never follows up with anything. And if things go wrong he throws us or production under the bus. Now this order is a big deal. High 6-figure contract with our number 3 customer. Part of a new line that could generate millions. I tell boss, and he shrugs and says I should email the guy to remind him of his parts and the new policy. No response. Friday cleanup comes and boss calls the guy on his cell, voicemail. So, boss puts the parts on his desk and has me send a reminder to the guy. Nothing. Monday rolls around and still no follow-up, so boss Reply alls my email with his boss, sales VP, and president on it saying per policy the guy had till 10 o'clock Tuesday, when trash people pick up our roll-off, to get his parts. Tuesday rolls around and he has me toss the parts and email the sales guy that I did. Things blew up on Wednesday. Sales guy calls me screaming at me for losing the parts and there's no way to make new ones in time. Who the duck am I to toss his parts, etc. Boss sees my face, and can probably hear the screaming from his office, and comes out to see what's going on. I managed to stammer something out and then got another earful from the sales guy. Boss takes the receiver from my hand and I will never forget this. You will never speak to my people like that again. Pause for cursing from the phone. I am hanging up now. The next call you get will be from VP Ops, for a meeting time to discuss this incident. We will also discuss your unprofessional language to me. He hangs up as the next tirade starts and tells me to ignore the guy's next call. Reminds me we have a big due date upcoming and hands me his credit card so I can order the team dinner and heads back to his office. About 4 o'clock he closes his door, which he only does for conference calls and HR stuff. My whole team can hear the yelling through the door, but not much detail. Around 5:25 HR sends out an email with times for mandatory training on following company policy and another for proper workplace decorum. Boss comes out about 6 o'clock looking mostly tired and remarks, "I will never understand why people wanna duck with the folks who make them money and write the rules. Oh, your work assignment for Friday is to be off." Then he just heads back to his office to finish our project. P.S. I never did get an apology from the sales guy, but he's been way nicer. I know the contract miss cost him his bonus, it was his only one that quarter. I think my boss took some shit assignments for the next couple weeks, but neither me or my team has heard anything about it. Thanks for listening.